Hi, Professor. This is my journal assignment for the class. And what I'm gonna basically do is, it's like a YouTube video that I'm gonna do to present my notes in a way that's more personal, because also notes are personal in a sense because they're just literally your brain on paper. Basically on the first page, it's from the first 2 weeks of the class when we were introducing our first films, and everyone was introducing their first film, and I really wanted to watch the films that caught my eye, since we showed mini clips from each one. So I wrote The Lives of Others, Yes Man, A Requiem for a Dream, Nocturnal Animals. Another film that really caught my eyes when you were presenting to us the longest running shot, which was Russian Ark. I wrote it down here. Because I was so interested. I'm like, how? So I really wanted to research it and watch it. I still haven't, but the semester is coming to an end in almost a week, so I hopefully will have time to watch these movies that I wrote here. And my notes on the films that we watched, because we were assigned, my group, Sergei Eisenstein. So my notes on the movies on my laptop, and yeah, because I was researching and putting in the PowerPoint presentation and I was watching, so I had 2 tabs open at the same time. But then I gradually moved on to the notebook, because it's just I can write quicker than I type. I realized while watching movies, because in this class especially, since all of the movies were Russian, you had to read the subtitles and it kind of distracts, so I need to write quickly and I need to look up so I can understand what's going on and keep up. And so the next movie that we watched was Circus, as we went along the Russian timeline. And so I was writing notes on the assignment when we had the film review on the Circus, and you can see a lot of religion, question mark, exclamation point, because the most thing I feel I was mesmerized about in the history of the Soviet Union and post-Soviet Russia was religion. How can people let go of religion that fast, and how can people adopt it as quickly? Because I remember we discussed in class the fact that when the Soviet Union was began and everything, and people started kind of destroying churches, and I'm how can you let go of your faith that quick? And it's not I'm religious or anything, it's just it's interesting to me. So when I remember I wrote down when we were watching Circus in class, I wrote religion, exclamation point, question mark, was because when the main character, before every show, she'd have a cross in a box. She'd pray before each show. So that was a shock, because I thought it was set in the Soviet Union, so I'm how can religion be in it? And then further on she lets go of it, so that makes more sense. The next page, 2 pages, are of the Circus when I was writing down notes. I know you wanted to see if we had doodles. I usually doodle in class because I tend to listen more than I look, because usually things are more auditory in class unless someone's writing down on the board. But since this is a film class and you can't really rip your eyes off of the board, because you'll miss a lot of the movie, since I don't understand Russian, so I didn't doodle a lot. I just have like a star because, you know, circus. So usually when I was watching the movie again at home so I can do the film review, I'd usually like write things that really stuck up to me, like religion again, and I'd write the time of the thing that happened. Like religion, it was at minute 7 second 17. Or like, for example, he looks like Rasputin. I was talking about the evil German villain in the movie that happened. Like, he looked like him at 2050. Anything that stood out to me, I'd usually write in like capital letters. I'm like transitions, or like lighting with like a million line underneath it. I'd put one because the movie would be so like I need to keep up, so I'd write little notes that I can understand for myself. Like, for example, when Martinov was flying at the end of the movie during the show, I just wrote flying. And yeah, so I can understand and go back to it when I'm writing the film analysis. These notes are for the cranes are flying. So at first you can see like a bit of doodling in here and up here. It's because I was just testing out a pen and getting the ink to work, but obviously it didn't, so I continued with pencil. And we watched the majority of the film in class, so I wrote in class notes. And usually you'd notice with my notes that I write a lot of question marks after each note because I'm not too confident. And so basically apparently at some point I wrote fascists in quotation marks and an arrow leading up to it, referring to like World War II question mark. I don't remember the scene exactly, but that's how my brain works. Like, it tries to link and then I put a question mark, and then I either rewatch the scene or I just Google it to check if I'm correct, or like usually watching the scene is enough because I guess the first time you're just trying to focus with the movie and write down notes, but then you just realize. Sometimes I'd write the parallelism, cinematography, the lighting. I'd write down quotes. Like, for example, here, "You are soldiers of the Red Army," in quotation marks. In Solaris, I wrote, they don't have to show the TV to show that they're watching. I thought it was an ad at first, but then it turns out it was an interview from a long time when they were talking about the Solarists. And I put ad question mark, but obviously I was wrong, and I was right questioning that it was an ad. The last page, is it the last page? No, it's not. The last page of classes, it was the last day of class. Basically the top, it's we were talking about the film analysis that I'm gonna do after this video, about the King of Comedy, and you showed us the thesis statement sample, and I know it could have been done better, but I wanted to remember it, and I also wanted to watch the movie, so I just wrote it so I remembered that, okay, thesis statement and watch the movie. And on the first line of the page I wrote Hospitality by Shahnaz Habib, the long poem. It was like a creative writing text that had like, it was all one sentence, and I really loved it, and you showed it to us in class, and I really wanted to go back and read it, so I wrote it down to remember. And then here I just wrote film analysis of the shots. It was just me jotting down ideas for what I want to do and what we're supposed to do for the film analysis. And since we were assigned like 4 movies, I wrote them down, like The Return, Loveless, Leviathan, and Elena. And I wrote, like, for example, The Return, Two Bros. Like, it's about two brothers. Loveless, the divorce movie. Leviathan, politics. Elena, a film about a family and a woman. Basically, I know it's a reductionist way of phrasing these movies and referring back to them, but it's how I can remember what they were about. And technically, trailers are sort of reductionist, in my opinion. And yeah, I ended up choosing Loveless. And yeah, I did this thing with like a line and like this separating so I can separate ideas, and this is how like my brain works. And this paper was mostly when we were seeing the aspects that you have to take into consideration when you're making a movie, like for example the shot length, not the time of the shot but the size, let's say, like for example a wide shot or a tight shot or extreme wide shot, and all of those, or the angles or the depth of field or the mise en scène, the costume settings and everything. And I wrote here in the very corner, dazed and confused, because for some reason we were watching a clip from that scene in class, and I've always wondered what that movie was, and then it said Dazed and Confused, and then I'm like, okay, I better write it down before I forget. And yeah, it really mattered to me, this paper, because it really matters to me because I want to learn as much as I want in film, because that's what I want to do in life. And that's why I try to watch as many movies as I possibly can, and that's why I write them down on my notes. And yeah, this is like a paper that like I'm gonna keep for my personal use, actually, because it was very beneficial. And yeah, I hope you like this video diary thing explaining my notes. I know it's a bit all over the place, but yeah, that's my mind, kind of. So it's me just throwing up what's in my head into a video, and I guess that's the point of this assignment, I hope. And yeah, I wanted to make it as personal as it can be. That's why I'm in my room, and I'm sorry the sunset. Now I'm a bit like mixing into the background. And yeah.